when these things happen, it's always best to put the mirror back on yourself and your organization and make sure that, look, before we go and, and suggest and give everybody else ambition, let's talk about having our own ambition.
For everyone who's joining, Anton Vincent is the president of Mars Wrigley North America. So all of our fantastic treats, our favorites that we love to eat for ourselves, and especially when our kids go trick-or-treating, we may take some of their candy as well. That's what we truly call mutuality, by the way.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be great to talk with you and have all of our people that join these events hear from you. So it'd be fantastic. So thanks for joining.
No, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. So how about this? So Halloween's coming. I'm going to turn it over to you from the very, very beginning. What should we plan for, and how can we truly be prepared for Halloween 2020?
Well, first of all, thanks, Brian. This Halloween is going to be like no other Halloween. I mean, it's obvious we're in the midst of COVID, and I would say as the largest confections company in the world, our first thing is we want to make sure that people are safe. That's first and foremost.
Right.
It is a fantastic ritual. It's one of the biggest rituals here in the United States, and our job is to make sure that you have every opportunity to enjoy it. So I would say first and foremost, if you do decide to go out and physically trick or treat, which we actually support, make sure you're doing with all the necessary safety precautions in mind. It is a great ritual. It's a great family ritual. Everybody can be involved, and so we totally support that. But there are the right and the correct safe ways to do it. The second thing is, Brian, and this is just some exciting news which you may have heard about over the last several weeks. I was on ABC's Good Morning America last week talking about it as well. Our marketers and our technologists got together in the summer, and we said, look, this is going to be a pretty different Halloween. So how do we find a way that we can get the maximum amount of participation in Halloween, even in the midst of COVID? Yeah. And it's something pretty fantastic. We came up with this app. This app is called Treat Town. It's a top 5 app on App Store, and it simply does a few things. First, it allows you, once you register you can build a door. You can actually, buy points that you can redeem at your local retailer for candy purchases. It also allows you to build virtual neighborhoods. We have a joint venture with Disney as well in terms of the Haunted Mansion that just got turned on this last weekend. And then one of the unique features is you can actually go in and redeem points. You can get those points and turn them into cash, and then we will take that cash at your direction, and then we were actually donated to the Boys and Girls Club of America. We call that treating it forward. And so we have some give back elements to it as well. And I think one of the things that allows all of our consumers to do is that wherever you are, whatever candy you like, Mars Wrigley candy you like, you can purchase, you can gift it, but you can participate in this beautiful ritual that we've had the opportunity to participate in now for over 100 years.
That's absolutely fantastic, and there's so many elements there that are great. So one, everyone on here, please don't. First of all, download the app. Make sure you have the app, and you can never be too prepared. So you can give many different ways, but also have lots of candy just to make sure that whoever does come over, or friends or family, or at least you have this help your own personal stash there. Yeah. So let's do that. But I think that's great that you have the opportunity to donate as well. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. That ties in so nicely with how we typically spend October, and that's Mars Volunteer Month, where we really give back to the community. So that's absolutely outstanding. And you said the top 5 app on the App Store?
It's the top 5 app, man. I tell you, I always say that necessity is the mother of invention and innovation in this case. But look, we could have done a lot. There's a lot of ways we could have approached it, but I like the way that we approached it. We tried to build a platform that was easy for people to grasp, to understand. We live in a digital world, and so an app made sense. But the real trick is sort of what you're able to do and how you're able to interact. Sure. And again, I think the holistic nature of it allows you both to, yes, do the Halloween thing, but also to give from your soul in different ways, and people who may need it as well. So we like the holistic nature of it, and how we can potentially apply this to other seasons as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And specifically with everyone's been dealing with this year, Halloween has always been one I absolutely loved, and it's always been it's been a fun time to get together and just you celebrate differently. It's a fun holiday, and it's nice to have these outlets in which we can still keep these things alive and keep these moving forward and keep that, maybe make new traditions. But it's just so important for us with everything that we're going on.
Really is.
You guys, so congratulations on creating this app and keeping this virtual and keeping people safe and still allowing the celebration to happen. Can you maybe talk a little bit about, I mean, obviously what happened, it forced us to think differently, but the learning agility and the strategic agility that you and your team need to have to still make this happen. So what did you learn from a strategic or learning agility aspect that one, you learned, but then what would you do, to make sure that becomes a strong muscle going forward?
Yeah, really good question, Brian. I think we learned a couple of things. And, if you guys will remember sort of the early days of COVID, you were probably procuring your food in very different ways, whether it was delivery services or online or website, but it was always in some kind of sort of distance manner from a typical, we call a brick and mortar, go into a large store and buy things and go out, get into a car and go back home. And so, that trend has been building for some time. So that wasn't new. But we knew in an occasion-based, in an event-based type of consumption like Halloween was, that you get a large amount of purchases in a very short period of time. So one of the things that we learned is that we could start to sort of reprogram our U.S. marketers and our U.S. consumers in terms of, look, you don't have to wait to a day before or 2 days before or 3 days before. You can actually extend the celebration Halloween over a much broader time period. So that was really the first objective. And I think, being in COVID and helping people to think about safe ways to A, access their candy, but two, to celebrate the occasion well and do it in a pretty fun way as well. We thought we wanted to, number one, build a holistic experience. So I would say as marketers, one of the things that forced us to do was expand our thinking about what this ritual was and what were we asking consumers to do, right? So I think first and foremost. And then secondly, I think it's just on the technology. As marketers, we tend to think we're on the bleeding edge, and technology always has a part in some of what we do, how we think, how we build processes, and obviously how we get to consumers. And so I think it helped us to advance our thinking at least a year or two ahead of time in terms of how do we start to bring technology together with what true consumer needs and consumers will look like as it relates to Halloween, and then just candy consumption overall. That was the second thing. And then the third thing, like most companies, we were doing all of this virtually. We were not face-to-face. So, our development teams, which are used to working virtually, but our marketing teams, which are used to, being in teams and, doing what face-to-face teams do. I think they developed a different muscle in terms of, what we call ways of working. And then how do you translate that ways of working sort of beyond this big period, as well as some of the things we started to think about.
That's great. And just kudos to you and your team for being able to create so much so quickly, because as you've shared before, I mean, you're planning for Halloween so many months in advance. And so to be able to pivot, it's impressive. So outstanding job. You in the conversations that we've had, you've been incredibly excited and very appreciative of all your associates and your teams for that strategic agility and that agility to move fast and quickly, because there's so much that's at stake, and we want to make sure that we're able to take care of our customers. So you've always talked a lot about saying thanks and everything else like that. So I know recognition is a really important part of your DNA. So maybe just tell me a little bit about how important is recognition, and what are some ways in which you try to stay connected across your entire enterprise to say thanks?
Yeah, a real good question, Brian. I would say one thing, and I don't want to put everything on COVID, but COVID forced us to sort of think differently around how we just connect with our what we call associates inside of Mars. Because again, without that physical connection, I think it taught us to be intentional. Taught us to be probably a little bit more intimate. I know this sounds odd from a virtual perspective, but I found that I've had in some ways more intimate connections with either individuals or small people that have allowed us to build relationship, build connection, build engagement in ways that we probably took for granted when we were. So I think that's the one piece. And I think I think the one thing that has helped us throughout Mars is just the recognition that we believe in our associates. We want to protect our associates. We want our associates to be safe. And I think for us, who are all about making sure that our employees and our associates have a really good working experience, I think we had the opportunity to reinforce our principles around who we are and how we feel about one another. And so I think that's been really, really critical. So some of it, I think, is just back to the fundamentals. I think the other pieces is learning how to build relationship and give recognition in a virtual environment. And I think the key is we start to contemplate sort of what we call coming back to office how do we start to embed those as people start coming back and getting more face-to-face interactions or some blended virtual face-to-face interaction and still keep that intentionality going? I think that's the key.
Right. No, that's great. Intentionality, I appreciate you sharing that, because it is about being very intentional of taking advantage of those opportunities to not only listen, learn, but also to say thank you in that meaningful way.
Right.
And there's been so much that's happened this year, and I don't think we can do enough of that. So I appreciate you sharing that. So if I think about where we're at this year, we're trying to do a lot around recognition, just because it's been a tough year, and the blending of personal and professional have now just gotten really, really muddy, because we used to have clear start and stop maybe when we would go to work and come home from work, but with doing it remotely now, it's been a bit of a challenge. It's been a bit of a challenge. How I'm ready to go back to the office, trust me. How have you been dealing with that during this time?
Yeah, I'm not any different than anyone else. All of us are trying to be as productive as possible, and I think one of the things that a virtual environment offers you is sometimes the ability to be a little bit too efficient, right? You don't have time between meetings. You can click to one and go to another, and before you know, you spent 8 hours in front of a screen nonstop all day. Those kind of things. So I think one of the things that I have tried to do is try to maintain as much routine as possible. Now don't get me wrong, I spend my days in pajamas sometimes, but I try to let the early part of my day stay the same. And as you know, I'm a morning person, and
Yes.
when I get in my steady state, I have a pretty specific routine before I actually even think about work, to be honest with you. So I've tried to make
great.
Yeah, and then I remember the first few weeks I looked up and said, I don't think I've had a lunch break in like 2 weeks. And it happened, right? So part of it is just trying to get some control back into your calendar. And
yes.
because you can doesn't mean you should. I think that's been very important for me. I don't do it all the time, because people need to see you, they need to connect with you, and they need decisions made. But I figure if I can model the behavior, I think that gives everybody else the permission to do the same thing as well. So I'm trying to be pretty around setting certain limits on my calendar, trying to make sure it is as routine as it can be, if I was in a sort of a face-to-face situation.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And I had some habits that I look back and felt really good about that I started creating during this. And then but I probably had more habits that I wasn't so happy about, and I had to change them. But it's so easy to form a habit, and when you don't have habits existing in a whole new environment. And
right.
I always love that. I always love asking questions like that, because I love to read. I love learning, and I love psychology, and I love a lot of psychology books that tie into business, because I'm always fascinated with how we think and how we act and how we react to things, and habits are something that's really incredibly important for me. So one of the things I've been able to do, probably more so being at home, not traveling as much, is in between a call, I'll just hit Spotify and play a song. And it's, for me, I love music, and just having that one song transition between something can just put me in the right frame of mind. It can clear me out, or depending on how the last call went, it may be a different. It depends on the genre of music I tip in.
You got a lot of options to get you back in the mood.
Exactly. So that's just a way for me to kind of try to find that balance. Or any other tips that you've kind of formed or started to form during this time of uncertainty that we've been through?
Yeah, well, Brian, and I know you will appreciate this, but I have a wonderful dog that I'm in love with, and I have titled her the most spoiled dog in the world. Her name is Mal.
Yes.
She's Sean. But, I find myself just spending more time with her. And as you know, animals are very smart. They really understand when their lives are changing, or when people's lives around them are changing. And then, they adapt. And so I think it's just been interesting just to learn more about my pet, in terms of sort of what turns her on, what frightens her. We're in the middle of sort of changing locations. And so, she feels things are not right,
Right.
But there's also a way to reignite the bonding in a new environment as well. So it's been, speaking of psychology, it's been interesting to me to observe her and how she's responded to certain changes, and how she can sense it, and certainly start to adapt with the rest of the humans around her.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Now everyone's in her area, by the
Yeah.
way. more time.
Wondering why, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We did a recent study. We've done 2 studies now during this time, and it's been amazing to see the insights from our clients out there of saying, here's what I'm now noticing, and what percent more are noticing just small behavior changes and asking questions. And so that human animal bond has never been stronger.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Maui definitely the star of the household there for sure.
Yeah. And she would have it any other way, by the way, Brian.
She absolutely loves it. That's fantastic. Well, I know everyone on this Instagram live here is going to really appreciate hearing about Maui. So that's definitely going to be the highlight from everybody. Is yes,
yeah.
he has a dog. This is so great.
Yes, yeah. And I have fashion. I still believe I'm the favorite one in the family. So I don't know if my 13-year-old believes that, but I think I'm the favorite. I think she does.
You know when Maui knows, right?
Or I get somebody at your company to just reaffirm my point of view.
Yeah. We have plenty of people that'll help you on that one. No problem. We're all here. We're all here for you. That is absolutely fantastic. I want to ask a couple more questions, and then we'll conclude this session of IG Live here. But one of the things that I've really appreciated so many things about your leadership style, the urgency which you bring, and the thoughtfulness and intentionality of our associates. So you and I have been on a lot of calls with other presidents of Mars this year, talking about all the social injustice that's happened. And one of the things that you've been a huge advocate on, that you and I would say aligned on very quickly, was, yes, we can do all these things monetarily, and these are great, but like, what's the real action? So can you maybe share a little bit with this group here on how important this is? And as I told you, I got a little cat right here in the.
Yeah, I think you're right, Brian. And again, I'll just sort of give you credit as well. You and your organization are in many ways leading Mars into this space, and I would say on some of the other segments, what happened in Minneapolis was just look. No one is on board with that, and it is a representation of issues that have been in our country for a very, very long time. But like you said, when Mars sort of stepped up and made, for Mars, I think, with some very public statements. And the sentiment has always been there. The action has always been there. But they put themselves out there. And so I think a lot of our associates were pleased and excited, and in some cases surprised. And I think you and me and others was like, yep, that's great. We're doing what we're supposed to do. But the actions is what count. The action is what makes it sustainable. The actions are what makes it work. And so, we have been able to do several things. One, when these things happen, it's always best to put the mirror back on yourself and your organization and make sure that, look, before we go and, and suggest and give everybody else ambition, let's talk about having our own ambition. So, we've done a great amount of work in just doing an assessment in terms of our organization and how we're preparing to move forward from the I&D perspective. I think the second thing, and you and I were part of this, is, bringing in some real expertise to really help us to understand and to advance our strategy and to advance our thinking and to advance our action. And that particular resource, whose name is Dale Farrell, has been just outstanding. And just a brief time in here, has been able to align people like me and you and others, get on board with the strategy, but also start to put the framework together so action can happen. Right. Well, very, very important for us. And then we're starting to see those things happen, and we'll be seeing things coming out as well. And I think third thing, which I think is probably the most important thing, is just an opportunity to have, some cases really difficult and just, just hard conversations with folks about what's going on in our society. Right. Not even having a particular point of view, but just being able to engage with someone who has a different experience on either side. And what we always say is EI&D is everybody's business. It's something that would benefit all of us, in our case, in the Mars associate base as well. And so I think that has been beautiful, both for me and being able to talk to associates either one-on-one or in groups or in affinity groups, and just get an understanding around how pockets and segments of our organizations are processing what's going on around them and how they're starting to think about the future. I think that's been really critical to me. And I think the thing for you and me and people like you and me to do is we just can't let the event drive our actions. We got to let our principles and our strategy and our commitment drive our actions, so that this thing is sustainable over time, and it will make us a better Mars, which I think is the objective.
Absolutely. You said it incredibly well. And I just want to echo the pride that I have of how we came together as Mars. And this wasn't a segment issue. This was a humanity issue. And we came together and just did so many fantastic things for not only our associates, our customers, but really for society. And it's that intentionality on being focused on whether it's pet health, in our case, but it doesn't matter what is, it's still rooted at that intersection of societal well-being. And we have a responsibility. And if we're not thinking about it, then who is? And we can truly lead with action. So absolutely fantastic. So
yeah, I agree with that, Brian. And I think, we are a purpose-led company. And when things like this happen, it allows us to step up into our purpose. And so I think it's another opportunity that, when you have a purpose-led organization,
right.
Part of it is you got to be about what you say you're about, and then you got to act, which I think is what you and I put a lot of focus on.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely fantastic. A couple quick questions, and then I'll let you go. So first of all, we all got to know, everyone. I mean, we have so many people that have been attending this live session.
Yeah.
What's your favorite candy?
Oh man, that's a hard one to narrow down, but I think I have two, Brian. So the first one is, which I think is a favorite, is just peanut M&Ms. I just love peanut M&Ms. I know that's your favorite, so we're kindred spirits in that one. But the one thing I like is just, it's funny working at a company and I know all the care it takes to make our product. You just appreciate them so much more. So that's number one. And then number two, I'll switch over to the treat side, is just the Skittles. I love those Skittles. The colors and the flavors and just the accessibility of them. I find it's a candy I can eat anywhere under any circumstance. So I really enjoy those. So those are my two favorites.
Awesome. I love it. The popularity of Skittles is unbelievable, and that was kind of me probably first showing that I was disconnected from the next generation, because when last few years, every time trick or treating was happening, I'd always buy all peanut M&Ms and Snickers, and then I had like maybe one box of Starburst and one box of Skittles, and I have my tray nice, neat, and organized, and yet everything at first was Skittles and Snickers. I'm like, wait a minute. So and then I did it again next year, and maybe I don't have the right learning agility, or I think I subconsciously was just trying to make sure I had plenty of peanut M&Ms for myself. So
that's not a bad idea, Brian.
Not a bad thing. It was a good outcome. It was a great outcome.
Exactly, man.
So that's fun. So real quick, I just want to ask something fun for you. So like, do you like TV shows or podcasts or streaming? Like, you have a favorite show or anything that you just like to disconnect and watch or do?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm going to date myself, but I grew up watching like All in the Family and the Jeffersons and all that crew. So I kind of on the TV side, I kind of like some of those old sitcoms, because it's interesting that, at that time they were projecting on what it would be like, now. And so I like the juxtaposition around what the thinking and the insight and the creativity was then and now what we're living, now. So I think that's one thing. So I'm into a bit of older sitcoms. And then, I'm a bit of a news junkie, man. So I'd say, all right. I mean, but hard news, not the partisan stuff. And so I like to know what's going on. I like to know how it's affecting the world. Part of it is part of our job. We need to know what's going on. But other part of it, I'm just interested. I'm a political junkie. Just on both sides, I like to understand what's going on. When I grew up, I had a civics teacher who really helped me to get excited about government and things of that nature. And so, given where we are now and the things we're talking about, it's a really engaging time for me. So I'm on a high now in terms of the subject matter we're talking about.
That's excellent. I love it. And then how about this? This is Ashton, by the way.
Hey, Ashton.
So Ashton likes to make appearances during these. So right on cue. Last word I'll give to you. How about any advice for our audience here? If you were to leave them with one thing, what would you leave them with?
Yeah, I think the thing I will leave them with is that look, we are living in unprecedented times. I mean, that is not a new statement, but it is the opportunity, I think, to think, to grow, and to develop. I always find that when you get into these times, there's always something you can do, a new habit, new insight. Some of the things we talked about earlier, taking care of yourself and really trying to be introspective around who you are and, why are you doing what you do? And because we're up against it so much, we don't have time to sort of sit back and think about the whys behind what we're doing and why we're doing it. So I think this is a beautiful time to take advantage of, A, a lot of craziness, but B, a lot of time to yourself and a lot of time with your family. I think it's a great time to take advantage. So I would offer that as an admonition and an offering to take advantage of it.
Love it. Well, on that note, you heard it from Anton. So Anton, president of Mars Wrigley Chocolate North America, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate the opportunity to connect with you, and for everyone to be part of this conversation. And your leadership's inspiring, and I truly always enjoyed our time together. So thank you very much. Keep going. And for everyone else, download Treat Town and make sure that you're fully prepared.
Yes, and trick or treat.
Anton, thank you very much. Be safe and let's have a fantastic Halloween.
We will do that, man. Take care, bro.
All right, see everybody. Thanks for joining.